Welcome back. This video is to talk about the spreadsheet. The league spreadsheet for Capwise Hockey. There's a separate spreadsheet for every league. It's hosted on Google Sheets. Totally homegrown solution. There's a lot of automation in the back end. There's some scripting and some other crazy stuff happening. Um, this video, I'm going to skip over the transaction portals. There's going to be a whole separate video about transaction portals. Very important. Don't miss it. But I want to just skip ahead to the other parts of the spreadsheet just to keep this video a little bit shorter. If you don't have a Google Sheets account or a Google account in general, I highly, highly recommend getting one. As a matter of fact, it's mandatory for the league, now that I think about it, because you won't be able to manipulate these transaction portals without it. You do not have to have a Gmail account to have a Google account. They make you think you do, but you don't actually have to. Um, what you're going to do is you're going to go to google.com, I guess, or drive.google.com. Sorry, let me see if I can actually figure this out. I'm going to share a different screen here. I'm going to jump into an incognito window. Um, and if I just go to, I guess if I just go to drive.google.com, it's going to ask me to log in. Now, if I don't have an account, I can create one. They've made this look different since the last time I've been here. So um, sign in, create account. Now, when you click create account for my personal use, uh, you're going to enter your name. You're going to enter your birthday, whatever. And then this is where they get you. So they make you think you need to sign up for a Gmail account. You don't have to. You can use your existing email here. Now, Gmail's great. I've had it for 20 years and it's been fine. But if you have, your Outlook.com or your Hotmail.com or whatever you like to use, you can do that. Just use your existing email and then you can sign up here. Okay, I'm not going to walk all the way through the sign up steps, but that's what you would do. So you do need to have a Google account. Do that right away. If you don't already have one, do that right away. If you have a Gmail account, then you already have Google Sheets, Google Drive. Whether you know it or not, that's built in with your Gmail account. So you're all good. If you are using, let's say, your Hotmail as your primary email address for the league, but you do have a Gmail account that you can use for this, just let me know what that email is, or even just request access to the spreadsheet using that account. I'll see it and I'll approve it that way. Okay, let me get back to the other screen here. Okay, so the transaction portals, as I mentioned, I'm going to have a separate video about that. So the search is where I'm going to start. So this is where this is the Capwise Hockey Player Lookup tool. You can look up any player that's in our database. You're going to find some basic information about him, including team, position, date of birth, etc. You can see right here whether he's JV eligible or not. That's going to be based on his games played. You're going to see here his contract. Everything he's got. If he's been re-signed, it'll indicate that he's been re-signed. You'll be able to see that. Otherwise, it's going to show you when his contract terminates in UFA or RFA status. Below that, you see who owns him in every league and whether he's on JV, varsity, or IR. It'll indicate that in parentheses. So BHO, WMP, these are different teams in different Capwise leagues. So you can see real quickly here that Forsling is owned in all but 4 of the leagues where he's a free agent. Down here, you can see his total remaining salary. That's relevant for buyouts more than anything. And then here you can see the calculated cost of a buyout. So we do the math for you. Buyouts are a little bit complicated. Read about that in the rule book, but here we do the math for you. As I mentioned, you can look up any player that's in our database, either by clicking the drop down, or you can just start typing, and it'll come up. As you can see, we are powered by Puckpedia for our salary cap information. So credit to them, although we do pay for that. There should also be a picture of him coming up. It doesn't for whatever reason, but it's not that important. You don't really need a picture. So that's the search. There is also a standalone version of this, the Capwise Hockey Lookup tool. You can get to this from the forum. There's a link to it. It looks the same. This should be hidden. It looks the same and operates the same. As long as I'm here on the player lookup tool, there is also the fees lookup tool that's attached to the same thing. Here you can find out how much you owe. So you find your name in the database, And it's going to give you a nice rundown of all the different leagues that you're in. It's going to have you confirm your email address. It's going to show you carryover balance, how much you currently owe, and then all the leagues you're in, the teams you own, and how much you owe. And then you can click here to make a payment. Okay, back to the league spreadsheet though. So this is the search tab. Pretty straightforward. Now, keep in mind, everybody can see what you're doing on this spreadsheet. So if you're coming here and you're looking up a player, it could be an indication to somebody, if somebody happens to catch you at that moment, it could be an indication to them that you're interested in that player. So just be aware of that. Here you see the upcoming draft. You can see all the different picks and what pick you own and all that sort of stuff. After the draft happens, we'll fill this in with the selections that have been made. And then here, RFAs, you can see everyone that's due to be an RFA. Players will appear on this list whether they've re-signed or not. Again, you can read more about restricted free agency in the rulebook. I'm not going to get into it here, but this is a quick way to see all the different players that are up for RFA bidding this year. Now, after that, you've got a team's spreadsheet. So here we're looking at St. Anselm Hawks. This is the ACFL spreadsheet we're looking at. So this is a real life live league. We're at the end of the season right now when I'm recording this video, so the spreadsheet is pretty beat up. It's been through a year. As you can see, they're all out of free drops. That's the first thing that jumps out here. They're all marked red, but you can also see the fact that this is highlighted in red. It's actually me, I guess. I must have this open in a different tab, but you can see who's looking at it. It's just a good example of how you can see who else might be looking at this at the same moment. Here we've got the team's logo, some information about the GM. This is a quick link to be able to send them a private message on the forum. So you just click this, it's going to open up the forum, already addressed to the correct person. You can see where they're located too, which I think is helpful sometimes to know what time zone they're in. You might remember I asked you what time zone you're in on the application form. When you're sending a trade email to a guy, it's nice to know if you're sending it in the middle of the night for him or not. And then here you've got the cap space. Big, bold top of your page here. If you're over, this will be bright red. You won't be able to miss it. So you're also going to get a daily email notification telling you that you're over the cap. So you will be pestered until you get back under. Now, this spreadsheet that we're looking at, this team spreadsheet, you are not intended to touch this. I mean, you can look at it, but you should never be modifying your team's sheet from here. If you have to, if it's an absolute emergency for some reason and you feel like you know what you're doing, the important thing is that this is the only section that should be modified, this top section. As we go farther down, everything is just lookups from this top section. So you should never be modifying what's down here. You should only modify what's up here. If you change what's down here, you will break it. And that eventually is going to potentially cause a problem where it's not properly registering how much cap space you have. So don't mess with the lower part. Really don't mess with this upper part either. If you want to do some testing and you want to see, what if I bought out this guy and I added this other guy and all this and preview a trade, things like that, there's two ways to do it. One, this is Google Sheets. You can come up here, File, Download, and download in Excel if you've got some way to read Excel. You can also make a copy, which is going to make a copy in your Google Drive, and then you can modify that copy as much as you want. The last thing we have is actually this little white page here. This is really useful. You click this, and it's going to make you a stripped down version of this spreadsheet. It's going to give you your team's sheet. It's going to give you, I forget what else, the search, as well as details, like all the relevant stuff you need for the back end. But it's going to be really stripped down, really lightweight version of yours. It's going to be renamed to be your team's name with the date that you clicked that button, and it's going to put it in your Google Drive. So once you have that, now you've got your own personal version of the spreadsheet that you can modify as much as you want. You can break all the links. It doesn't matter at that point. Okay, so again, don't touch the spreadsheet. Look at it, reference it, don't touch it. If you want to touch it, you download a copy or you click this button to make your own version. So at the top here, you can see your varsity roster. You can see your junior varsity roster. You can see the free drops that you have remaining. You get 3 every year. They get reset when our fiscal year transfers over, which is around July 1st. When these aren't X'd out, let me jump to another team. It's 1, 2, 3. That's what they say. It's a good example here too. He's got an overager on JV, so that's flagged in red. That's why that particular one is in red. More on that in the rule book. I'm not going to get into it here, but now as we scroll down, you see the varsity player contract information. So this takes all the names that you've got up here and transposes them down to here, and then it looks them up in our database and pulls in all their information. So here you can see an example where a player has re-signed. So it says RFA slash 3.0. 3.0 is what he's going to make moving forward. Shows the rest of that contract and then the fact that it terminates in UFA status. Games played, that's going to be marked in green if he's JV eligible. As he approaches losing that JV eligibility, it'd be marked in yellow. And then once he's lost it, it'll just go back to being white, like everybody else on the roster. So this team has one player who's JV eligible. The totals are added up here. So here's your average age of your roster. Here's your total salary for this year, next year, and every year onward. So you can see eventually it's going to end in zero, most likely. Below that, we have the injured reserve area. Now, this is a little bit complicated the way that this works. So you're going to want to get used to it. I'm going to modify this directly on the spreadsheet just for the sake of demoing this. But again, you don't ever touch this. You're going to actually manipulate this by using those transaction portals. Again, covered in a different video. But you want to know how to read this. So let's say Dustin Wolf is on IR. You're going to move him to injured reserve. His name's going to appear here. You're going to replace him, say with Tristan Jari. You're going to replace him from free agency on today's date. And then Jari's name will go up into your spreadsheet. Now you can see here, Jari is flagged in red or pink, whatever you want to call that. That's just indicating he's an injured reserve replacement, an IRR. You're also going to see that his name is in gold. That is significant. That means he's eligible for a second replacement, which means that you could replace Jari and pay a second replacement fee. More details on that in the rule book. You can only do it once a month per injured player. So if I do a second replacement for Jari, that's my once a month for Dustin Wolf's second replacement. The next guy that I put in here will be black text. Still be pink, but it'll be black text, which indicates I can't change him. Once a month goes by, he'll turn to gold. Now, if Jari himself gets injured and you need to add another replacement, you could add Nedeljkovic, if I can spell it. I don't know why I picked such a difficult to spell name. You added him from free agency on May 1st, let's say, and then Nedeljkovic's name is going to go here, replacing Jari. Now, that's not a second replacement. That's a replacement of a replacement because Jari is actually injured. It's not just like a preference, like you're tired of Jari, so you want to bring in Nedeljkovic. It's actually that Jari got injured, so now you're going to replace him with Nedeljkovic. These can be stacked up in a single pod, up to 4. That is not the limit. You could just keep replacing if these guys keep getting injured. That's terrible luck. But it's rarely happened that it would go more than 4 like that. Now, the way this is laid out is actually significant because if you want to return Wolf, you can think of this like stacked parking. So if you want to return Wolf, both of these guys have to be dropped. If you want to just return Jari, then you would have to release Nedeljkovic. And then Jari would continue to serve as Dustin Wolf's IR replacement. So it's like stacked parking, right? These cars are all in the way. In order to get the farthest in car, you got to move all the other ones first to get that guy out. IR replacements can never be transferred to roster players. So an IR replacement must be released after the IR replacement stint is over, and then you could re-sign him after that if you wanted once he clears waivers. Another thing that people get tripped up by as new people, and again, I'm not trying to get into the rules too deeply, but as long as we're talking about it, if you've got, let's say you've got Jari here as your replacement for Wolf. Let's say Wolf is healthy, but now Aiden Hill is hurt. And so Aiden Hill comes over here. A lot of people think, oh, great, I'll just move Jari over to be Hill's IR replacement. I'll keep Jari, I'll reactivate Wolf, and I'll move Hill to IR. You can totally do that on Fantrax, but it's not allowed. Capwise, that's not allowed. To reactivate Wolf, you must release Jari. You've got to open up that spot to bring Wolf back into it. Jari goes to waivers. Once he clears waivers, now you can bring him back as Hill's replacement, but he has to go through waivers first. You got to give everybody else an opportunity to grab him. Okay, that's the IR replacements. As you fill that up, I don't know if you noticed, but this should be changing too. Let me make sure I fix this because this, as I mentioned, is a live spreadsheet. This is going to tell you how many spots you have open. Now, the reason that's there is because it's kind of tricky sometimes because you can only have 7 guys on IR. Now, if you've got, Wolf, Jari, and Nedeljkovic all on IR and then replaced by somebody else, that's three. They're all in one little box, but that's three. Once you've used up all 7, this will say 0 spots open, and all the remaining red areas will turn gray. So that's your indication that you're all filled up. Here you've got second replacement fees. That's just counting up how many times you've used a second replacement, and then multiplying it by 250,000, which is the fee for a second replacement. Details on who those second replacements were, when you did it. If you have any doubts about it, you're like, wait, I didn't use 5 second replacements. You can scroll all the way to the bottom, and they're tabulated here. It's a little hard to read. They get cut off, but you can see who the injured player is, who replaced him, who his original replacement was, and then the date that happened. So there'll be a line here for each one of those. Okay, dropped player list, re-signing fees list. If you drop a player, details on drops and buyouts, read the rulebook. But if you drop a player, his name is here. It'll go here, it'll sit here until the end of his contract, unless somebody else adds him, and then he'll come off this list. Also, when you take over a new team as a new GM, you're adopting a team, that list gets wiped out. So if the previous GM had stacked up a bunch of drops, that'll get cleared out. There is a limit. You're only allowed to keep this many guys on your dropped list at a time, whatever that is. I think it's 7. That's the most you can have at any given time. Over here, we have re-signing fees. Anytime you sign a player to your varsity roster from the dropped list, you get charged a re-signing fee of $250,000. There's no limit to the number of re-signing fees. There's only 7 spots here, but there is an overflow section at the bottom if you needed to add more. Buyouts, those details are tabulated here. You're going to see the players. If you put the player's name here, you're going to see his full contract information, but for a drop, you're only paying for 50% of that. So you see his full salary, 850, but here you're only paying 425. That's half of his salary, or of his AAV technically. Re-signing fees are tabulated over here, 250,000 per. Those are added up right there. Buyouts, if you're to buy out a player, you put his name would go here. Again, don't modify these areas yourself. You're going to use the portal for it. But if you downloaded the copy and you're wanting to play with it, this is how you would do it. You just type in his name there, and the cost is added in automatically. We store that buyout cost in our database, so that's just pulled right in. Again, you're not limited. There's 15 rows here, but if you want to do more buyouts than that, there's plenty of room down here to do more buyouts. Promotions. You are limited on promotions. You're only allowed 15 per year. Promotions only count or only registered during the season. So in the off season, which is like July 1 until October 1, basically, promotions don't count. But you get 15 during the season, and for those 15, you're paying a fee of $250,000 per promotion. Those fees are added up here. Again, you don't manipulate this yourself. It's all done through the transaction portal. So all these orange sections, you're starting to pick up on. The orange sections are where we're picking up the different subtotals of your salary, because you've got obviously the raw salary, but then you've got all your drop costs and your re-sign fees, your buyouts, all that. Each little area has an orange total, subtotal. Here you've got the JV player salary contract information. Looks just like the varsity one. This as your games played total. Works a little bit different. It's in reverse. So it's white if they're JV eligible. It'll turn yellow as they approach the limit, and then it'll turn red once they're over the limit. When a JV player goes over the limit, if you have an overager already, you're going to lose the JV player immediately. As soon as I notice, basically, which I do a sweep at least once a week. So once I notice that player's just gone, you didn't know, no second chance, no ifs, ands, or buts, he's gone. If he's a goalie, goalies can't be overagers. So if he's a goalie, it doesn't matter if you have an overager or not. If he hits that red mark, he's out. If you don't have an overager and it's a skater, you get a 7-day grace period. I'll reach out to you. I'll say, hey, do you want to keep this guy as your overager, or do you want to let him go for free? And you'll have 7 days to decide. This team already has an overager, Kent Johnson, which you can see is flagged in red because he's not JV eligible. Best practice, move the guy while he's yellow. Don't wait for me to come find it. Don't wait me to force drop him. It's very helpful if you just move the guy beforehand, even if all you're going to do is release him. Just drop him when he's a game away. Just drop him. Down here, you've got cap space trades. Throughout the year, you might be trading some cap space. That's a really valuable trade tool, especially for like a bottom end team. You probably have a lot of extra cap space, a bunch of young players, and so you can leverage that, trade that cap space. And obviously, it gets more valuable as the season goes on because people get more and more desperate. So a positive number is cap that you've given away. A negative number is cap that you've received. You're only allowed to receive up to 7 million, I believe it is, but confirm in the rule book. You're only allowed to receive 7 million per year, and there's a limit to what you can trade away, but it's very high. Nobody's ever hit it before. So those are all stacked up and added here. You can trade cap space for this year or any of the next 2 years as well. Signing bonuses, this is where we track your RFA and UFA signing bonuses. RFA signing bonuses come from bidding, RFA bidding, and the UFA signing bonuses are calculated based on the salary, the new salary of the player that you've re-signed. You don't have to keep UFAs. If a guy hits UFA and he's re-signed, but it's a contract you don't want to pay for, you can let him go. If you just don't want to pay the signing bonus, you could let him go and then redraft him in the fall. That's fine as well, and you won't have a signing bonus. Other fees here, everybody gets a mid-season bonus, so you see that there. This is also where we would store the bonus that you get if you're a trade reporter or a league rep. Also, any other miscellaneous fees that need to go there are going to be applied. Again, yellow or orange, whatever this is, subtotals. Now here's the information center. All of those subtotals are brought down here, and they're all added up together to give a total salary. That is compared to the year's salary cap to give you your cap space remaining. And then this is the number that shows way back up at the top. This particular league, this is the ACFL, they're in only their second season, so you can see the cap continues to rise. In a new league, it takes 4 years before the cap is at its full peak. After that, every league across Capwise has the same salary cap. And you can see this goes out for several years at a time. Now, mostly it's just going to be the varsity roster and the drop list. That's what goes out into the future, but also your cap space and your signing bonus can be up to 3 years into the future. So you get a pretty good indication of where your team's headed. Down here, as I mentioned, you've got your overflow section, just in case you need to reference anything there. Now back up to the top, as I scroll over to the right, I've got the drafts. These are draft results for amateur draft and reentry draft, going back through time. Again, this league's only in its second season, just completed its second season. So we can see all the initial drafts here from 2023. And then we can see its drafts from 2024. And then we can see this team has acquired a bunch of draft picks in future seasons. So VNC, that's another team in the league. So they've acquired VNC's first round pick. And then they haven't actually traded away any, but if they had, it would look like this, traded to New Jersey Hitmen. Last but not least, all the way on the right, we have our completed trades section. Every trade you make is going to be recorded here so you can look back and laugh at yourself and the mistakes that you've made throughout your team's history. Over on the right, you've just got just a little bit of a work area for me. This drives some of the formulas and other stuff elsewhere, so try not to break that. So that's your team's spreadsheet. Every team in the league has their own sheet here. You're more than welcome to go look at any other team and see what their situation is, give you some ideas for trades and all that. Once you get past all the different teams, all 14 teams, you're going to land on this GMs tab. Just some contact information for all the different GMs in the league. You can also see who used to be in the league. The next one over is the transaction log. This is the full transaction log, the entire history of the league, going all the way back. You can search this, so Control F or Apple F if you're on a Mac, and then you can look up a player's name and see any, if you spell it right, you can see any move that might have happened with the player. First Crosby didn't do anything. Malkin probably went to IR at some point. Sure he did, yeah. So here you can see that the Library Cops reactivated him on the 31st. Beyond that, you have the draft history. So we keep every year's draft. Just again, you can go back and laugh at yourself and the mistakes you made, players you missed out on. That's all in there. I'm using my mouse wheel to scroll across this, by the way, so that can be helpful. You can also use these arrows over on the far end, but they get a little clunky. So transaction portals will be covered elsewhere. There's TP1, TP2. That's what those are. The last thing to call your attention to here is this Capwise Hockey menu. If you're on a computer, if you're on your phone, you can't use this. But if you're on your computer and you're logged in, you're going to be able to see the Capwise Hockey menu here. These are just quick links to the different things: trade portal, waiver form. Rulebook is kind of cool. You open that up, it's going to actually open a little pop-up window with the rulebook. So you can see the full rulebook here. This is a quick jump to the ACFL homepage. You can go to the ACFL homepage on Fantrax, take you to the forum. Here's all the other leagues. This takes you to the other leagues spreadsheets. Transaction portal. It's just, well, I'm already on portal 2, so that would just jump you to the portal. So just some quick links can be useful. Again, you can't get those on mobile, only on the desktop. Now, mobile for Google Sheets, download the Google Sheets app. Totally free, of course. Just download the app, log in. You'd have a really good experience. It really does work pretty well. These are obviously huge spreadsheets. There's a lot of scrolling involved, a lot of zooming and pinching and scrolling on your phone, but well worth it to have that Google Sheets app. Trying to do this in a web browser on your phone is virtually impossible. So definitely download the app. You have the best experience. That's it for the spreadsheets, except for the portals. Check out that other video for the portals. Got any questions about the spreadsheets? Let me know.